Imagine a future in which you will carry your telephone, your typewriter, and your library in your pocket or your purse. Had someone said that to me when I was in college, I might not have taken them seriously. That would have been a lot harder to imagine then than it is now to imagine a future in which highways are dominated by automated driving systems, aka self-driving cars, especially since the company that gave us the smartphone and the car are investing more in this future than they are in any other. It's a future described by the fifth speaker in the Beacon Center of Tennessee Forum, Off Track. What's wrong with Nashville's transit plan and what we should do instead, held Saturday, January 27, 2018, at Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. In a 15-minute PowerPoint presentation, Mark Scribner of the Competitive Enterprise Institute explained ADS, its progress, potential uses, and advantages in terms of both cost and efficiency in moving commuter traffic.
What this is these cars have limited to full self-driving functionality. So that's the ability of a car's computer to direct the car in most or all driving situations. And I'm going to briefly get into some of these levels 3, 4, and 5, what SAE is talking about.
The first self-driving vehicles had steering wheels and pedals that allowed drivers to take control if needed.
This is Google's second major prototype, this low-speed pod car. This is level 4, so this is high driving automation. There's no user fallback, but the operational design domain, so where this vehicle is capable of going, is restricted. So it might be geo-fenced to certain roads within an urban core. It might be for the whole urban core, for the metropolitan area, but it can't go everywhere that a human driver can currently go today in their car. And this is where everyone wants to go. Level 5, full driving automation. So there's no user fallback, just like level 4, but it's an unrestricted ODD. So this car, the future car, is capable of going anywhere that you can go today in your driven vehicle.
The promise of ADS, driverless vehicles, comes in its many applications.
You've got private automated vehicles. Maybe you live in a certain area or you're wealthy enough where you'll want to own a luxury car, a private car that you keep at your house and can drive you everywhere you want to go. That's one option. You also have shared automated vehicles like robo-taxis. This is VW's concept vehicle called Cedric. It's a cute little taxi there. It'll take you around just like a taxi goes today, but with no driver on board. You can do what we might call micro-transit shuttles. So these might be on a fixed route. This is a pilot vehicle in Las Vegas right now. These might operate in downtown areas to provide superior transit functionality at a lower cost, but you won't have the same problems that we have today of having mostly empty, high-capacity transit vehicles rolling around the streets. You can downsize and still provide a high level of fixed-route transit service. But if you do have that demand, if you do have the density, you might want to go to what these high-capacity automated buses, this is a prototype that Toyota first developed in the early aughts and has since been working on off and on. But these have been deployed for limited pilot projects in Japan. But these are the kinds of things that you could do. You have a platoon of transit vehicles, so basically making a road train without the expense of tracks.
If it works, the competition between drivers and ADS is over, and ADS wins.
The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration estimates that between 93 and 95% of fatal vehicle crashes involve a human crash factor, so driver error. This technology also potentially allows what's known as platooning, and that's where you'd have these automated vehicles communicating with each other to space themselves very, very close on a highway lane, and then move at highway speed, sort of in a very long road train down that road. And that could have major positive congestion impacts. So if you don't need to have a driver's license, whether or not you're too young, you're just not bothered to get a license, or a growing concern is that what happens when you're elderly and the state starts taking away your driver's license. And I think this is really where we're going to see a lot of benefits. It's the people who can enjoy the personal mobility benefits of the automobile today finally enjoying those benefits. Really what this allows you to do is to better harness your existing road network. And that's, I think, where we have a lot of problems. It's not, we do have certain places in this country where we do need more physical capacity, but a major problem in this country is that existing infrastructure is used inefficiently. And this could help greatly improve the efficiency of existing infrastructure.
And compared to mass transit, not only is it cheaper,
very little public expense has to go into it. Yeah, there's certain expenses that come from government rights of way and things like that, but ultimately we're not talking about really any additional costs to deploy this. This is all being provided and developed privately, so this isn't going to stick it to the taxpayers in the way that Mayor Barry's budget-busting boondoggle would.
but it will make most mass transit obsolete.
You may have fixed route transit services in dense urban cores, but we're going to be moving towards a more door-to-door, on-demand service delivery model. So the traditional model of radial transit, of getting people into the central business districts on trains or even commuter buses, I don't think is going to hold outside of, I'm not saying Manhattan is going to get rid of their subway system, but outside of the handful of transit legacy cities, mass transit as we know it may disappear.
So, what cities should be doing instead of raising taxes to build obsolete mass transit systems and still serve the poor efficiently,
Mayor Barry should be contemplating about, well, what happens when automated vehicles completely cannibalize our ridership, and that's done by private providers. So one thing that she should be doing is preparing to ultimately retire all mass transit in Nashville, at least as provided by the government. Once we get to that stage, obviously you're going to have low-income residents who may not be able to afford full fare. Well, then you do mode-neutral transit vouchers, and you target those low-income people. You don't build a light rail line that are generally designed to benefit wealthier residents at the expense of poor residents. Instead, you give them money and they spend it on transportation as they see fit.
Scribner gave a tip of the hat to Tennessee lawmakers who, he said, have taken a leadership role in regulatory partnership with ADS.
In 2006, we saw the first bill which defined autonomous technology, and this was for the purpose of preempting local governments from banning these, which you saw some, I think, paranoid local officials around the country contemplating such action. So, I think that's a wise decision to preempt the locals at the state level to prevent really bad policy, outright prohibitions on this from going into effect.
Tomorrow, we'll hear from Emily Hamilton of the Mercatus Center, describe even more, less expensive, more effective solutions to Nashville's congestion problems. Until then, don't forget, when in Nashville, tip the band. I'm Ralph Bristol, at your service.